Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Thank you for joining me for this continuing series on 30 Days to a Better You. Over the last couple of days, we've been dealing with being a holistic person as a subtopic under that general heading. And within that subtopic, we dealt with diet, exercise, and now we're dealing with getting some more sleep. You know, I read the newspapers almost daily, and often I come across articles written by health advisors and doctors, and they continually stress that people need to get more sleep. We live in an era in which we are surrounded by so many entertainment devices and late night news and so many different activities that it's not like in the old days. Now we hardly get any sleep. You know, in the old days, the sunset, the night, darkness of nights fell over the land, and people went to sleep. And then they got up after a good night's rest, bright and shiny in the morning, together with the rising of the sun, and they went out to work and everything like that. And so, you know, life had its challenges, but at least people got a good night's rest. And nowadays, we are entirely challenged in that regard. So how can we get over that problem? How can we get a good night's rest? It is essential, as you know, that we do get good sleep because the lack of sleep is connected with many health problems. Let's look into the Quran and see how the Quran speaks about getting rest. In fact, it's surprising from this perspective, seeing that we know now about the importance of sleep, how much the Quran emphasizes that it is one of the blessings of God that He has given us the night in which we can find repose, and then He has given us the day in which we can go out and earn. In fact, it is a mystery as to why people go to sleep. Like, why is it that evolved as we are, we haven't evolved away from needing sleep? And it seems that sleep and rest is essential to the human composition. Sleep is one way of helping us to come to terms with all of the bombardment of thoughts and ideas and experiences that our brain has to deal with on a daily basis. So we sleep, and that's one of the blessings of God. So several verses of the Quran deal with this. For example, in the 78th chapter of the Quran, from the 9th to the 11th verse, God says, وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. God is saying, we have made your sleep a chance for you to rest, and made the night as a covering over you. It's almost like we need this blanket to sleep at night because if it's too bright, it's hard to sleep. And He's made the day a chance for you to earn a living. So everything is well balanced in the creation of God, and we need to balance our day and night. We need to balance our work activity with our sleep as well. So several verses of the Quran continue to drive home that theme. For example, in the 25th chapter of the Quran, in the 47th verse, don't you see that God has given you all of these blessings by, giving you night and day, specifically that He's given you night so that during the night you can actually go to sleep. There is an interesting mention in the 30th chapter of the Quran that God has made it possible for you to sleep both in the night and in the day. Now, when we think about sleeping in the daytime, we have to think about all of the night workers and, doctors and nurses and other essential workers who have to be busy at night caring for others, and so many other occupations which in modern times might require people to work at night. So when are they going to sleep? They're going to sleep during the day. So what was not possible at one time is now a reality in our present time, and it looks like the Quran has already made an allowance for that by the recognition of the fact that people will have to sleep during the day. But even in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, people did sleep during the day, and the Quran actually makes mention of that when it says that you sleep, in the night and also in the day, in the 30th chapter of the Quran. Now, how important is it to have a daytime sleep? Now, in some of the cultures around the Mediterranean, it is common for people to have an afternoon nap, especially with the heat being as intense as it is. People will pause from work during the peak heat hours around noon, and then they would resume work later on in the evening. So what would they do during that time of pause? So they might have lunch, and especially if they've had a heavy lunch, well, they might feel a little bit sheepish, and it's time to sleep. And it is noted that even today, like this afternoon sleep is called a siesta. And nowadays it is, the practice is dwindling a little bit as people become busier and busier. So what might be called a siesta in Spain might be a 2-hour break from work. And maybe some people sleep, but most people do not anymore. But this was a very common practice. Now, it is noted that our Prophet Muhammad, in whom be peace, actually used to sleep in the afternoon, and this is called a qaylula. And this it gave him stamina to be able to get up at night and offer the night prayers. So he would offer the compulsory mandatory prayers for all Muslims, which is called the Isha prayer. And then he would go to sleep, and then he would wake up in the wee hours of the morning, and he would offer a special prayer, which is referred to as the tahajjud prayer, a prayer that really involves more effort. And then he would go back to sleep for a bit and then wake up again for the morning prayer. So that's, some of us might wake up for a midnight snack. So he woke up to pray. And because he followed this routine, he made up for his sleep by having the afternoon nap. And nowadays, people talk about having a power nap, a 20-minute nap in the afternoon. Might work wonders for you. And there's a science behind this. I can't explain it very clearly in scientific terms, but basically what it entails is that there are two opposing interests working within us. One is the interest in getting us to sleep. And that starts actually from the time we wake up. So the clock starts ticking so many hours since the last time we've been to sleep. So we need to sleep soon. So that's keeping count that way. And then in the late afternoon, by evening actually, another sort of clock kicks in to keep us awake. Like another part of it is telling us it's not time to sleep yet. So the afternoon actually is a time between these two competing interests when we could have some sleep, and that could make up for the missing sleep during the night. So a wonderful system created by God. Let's take advantage of that. So how can you incorporate this in your own life? How can you become a better sleeper? Well, recognize the importance of this. Pray your night prayers early, and then don't do anything afterwards. Don't watch the late night news to get your mind all worked up and worried about stuff happening in the world. Get a good night's sleep. Wake up early in the next day, and be ready to do something to change the world. That is the time you need the news to know what you can do here and now to help the world and help your fellow human beings. So let us think about getting some more sleep as something that a Muslim needs to do. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is reported to have said that our eyes have a right on us, and that right is that we should give it some sleep. Our bodies have a right on us, and that right is that we should give it some rest. So let's incorporate that in our own lives. This brings us to the end of this segment today, but we will continue dealing with being a holistic person. So tomorrow we'll talk about decluttering your life, and that's part of the larger series, 30 Days to a Better You. So please continue to watch. See you tomorrow, God willing. Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Let the Quran Speak, I want to say thank you for supporting us. Please continue to support us this Ramadan. May God bless you and your loved ones with the very best always, and may you draw ever closer to God this Ramadan.